If you aren't aware already, Epic Games has a tendency to give away different games entirely for free every new week, and over the years I've collected a bunch of these games. However, I've barely played any of them, so I thought it'd be fun to start a new series where I go through and play each and every game I've gotten, then give it a review on whether I think the game is worth a playthrough. So for the first episode, I decided to go with Never Alone, mainly because I figured it would be a short and story-driven game. And was correct, so let's jump into it. Never Alone is a game that aims to tell a more traditional story from actual Alaskan natives, but in the format of a video game, which I think is absolutely a cool idea. Bring to life cultural stories that many other people may have never heard of before because they never had a platform to be shared from. And the fact that they actually went and talked to these people to develop the story as accurately as possible is amazing as well. The game itself is a single player or co-op experience where you can play as a little girl and an Arctic fox. You traverse through the 2D land and solve puzzles using both playable characters' different abilities to get to your goal. Now, I do have a lot to say about the gameplay and puzzles, but I think it would be best to start with the story, since that is where this stream truly shines. Before I begin the story, this is going to be spoiler free, so don't worry. But anyways, the story from this game, from what I gathered when playing this, is that the main little girl, Nuna, has decided to travel out of her village to discover the source of a never-ending blizzard affecting her village. During her adventure, she catches an Arctic fox that becomes a bridge for her and the spirit world who help guide her through her entire journey. As you travel, you meet people who will help you and also hinder your journey. The story is best told through the cinematic cutscenes that you'll see when you reach certain sections, and the best parts are where they use the art style of the culture to represent these stories. Kinda makes me wonder why they decided to go with the 3D style for the gameplay and not use the 2D style throughout the whole thing. Because honestly to me, the 3D graphics aren't that great, but also the game was made in 2014. So I'll just stop. There's quite a bit of dialogue in this game, but it's all narration to what you see on screen, which I actually quite liked because it kind of gives that vibe of sitting in a circle and listening to stories from a natural elder. It also told entirely in the dialect of the natives as well, which is from a specific tribe, but honestly I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm just going to put it on screen. Anyways, I enjoyed the story a lot. What I get from it is that even if you feel like you're on your own or something, there's always someone there who will be helping you along. Now, I could be wrong as my reading comprehension skills are terrible, but I do like this message of the story. They also have tons of extra content to describe the culture and the making of the game, which I think is fantastic as well. But now we move on to the gameplay, which I don't have quite the same taste for. I'm not the best 2D platformer by any means, and I am also not the biggest fan of these kinds of repetitive puzzle games, so you may have an entirely different experience with the gameplay than I did. However, for me, I think it brings down the entire game, to the point where I didn't get the full fulfillment from the story, which is sad because I think they had a wonderful story to tell, but the gameplay just didn't match with it well. Now, if I were to go back, I would find a friend to play this game with, because the AI isn't reliable at all, and every once in a while it'll just not move and end up dying, resetting you to the last checkpoint. Thankfully, the checkpoints were forgiving, and were quite often, to the point where you wouldn't lose that much progress, because I would end up dying a lot. Now, quite a bit of it would be me just being bad at the game, but the other time it just felt like if you didn't know exactly what came next, you were guaranteed to fail. Like, the game wasn't always that predictable, and feel like a punishment for no reason. Which, for a game focused on story, I don't believe this should be happening. I also think the puzzles were a bit too repetitive sometimes, and slow, because you had to constantly change between the characters. But also it would get frustrating sometimes, because if you don't know, the fox has to be nearby for a spirit to arrive sometimes. And every once in a while, as you're parkouring as Nuna, the fox will just walk away from making the spirit disappear, causing you have to redo everything. The puzzles themselves weren't that hard though, and were quite simple, but sometimes it would just get way too frustrating for me. Another thing that might just be me problem were the controls. Now, the running and jumping were fine, that is no biggie. But there's a point where you unlock a throwable weapon, and for whatever reason, the aim is left click and the change character button is right click. Now, when I play shooters, the aim button is the right click. So imagine how many times I would to go aim and end up switching characters. Now, this is definitely me, because I probably could have gone and changed the controls, and I didn't check. But like, come on now, that should have probably been switched at default. Also, the aiming was just not that great. The only identifier for the aim is the arm, and even then, it wasn't always accurate. But yeah, sorry for the rant. The gameplay is just, Despite my frustrations with the gameplay, I do think the game is on the right course. I also think if it decided to go with the co-op option of the game, I would have enjoyed it a lot more than when I played it alone. I truly believe a lot of love went into this game, and I can see why it is so liked and highly rated. It tries to bring a light to something that many people don't think of in a modern world, and that is a beautiful thing. Now, the final rating of the game isn't going to be a number, but instead if I could see myself actually paying for this game at full price, on sale, or if being free is the only way I would ever play this game. So where does Never Alone sit in this rating system? Well, honestly, I don't think I could see myself buying this game at the full price of the $15 price tag, but if it were to go on sale, I would give it a try. I hope you enjoyed this new series, and let me know if I should continue in the future.